It's very rare I get to do PowerPoints or presentations, but I work for Active Lancashire, and a fraction of the Work Well programme is supporting prison leavers. So I took that on, and I've been doing that since December. Okay. So Work Well focus, prison leavers, short-term health issues, bridging people into the community, action plans, star chart journeys. The star chart is a really good tool to start identifying what needs to go into the action plan, so we can start working with our resources and start to work on that resettlement plan. And it also helps us work with the resources that are working in the departments that are already in the prison. Okay, and that took a bit of work. I think we come on to. I haven't seen this slide for about 2 months. Okay. So approaching prison on site, relationship built with HMP Preston, weekly wellbeing workshops in the prison, working with mainstream population, rehabilitation, substance misuse population on the rehabilitation wings, and targeting the enhanced wings where people start climbing ladders and start to progress through work, personal development, and start taking positive risks and chances. So I'm part of all of that. So I have 3 groups running 3 days a week, and part of them groups is the big piece of work for me was developing relationships within the estate. So you've already got services on site and doing bits and bats, and I had to work with the departments to see where I fitted in, with my work. And I found my place, and I found my feet, and I started to gain some attention with some of the work that I was working with the prisoners. So the groups now, you've got 28 inmates in one group, and it's quite busy. And there's also a huge reserve list, to get engaged in. But before they start coming to the group, they've got to go through a healthcare assessment with the healthcare team. They've got to be vetted by security, and then it's got to be signed off by staff who actually run the wings. So you can imagine the process before they even get to see me, and they have an assessment on the induction wings on first night. It's called first call, on the first night, and somebody goes to see them and does a bit of a general assessment. So there's a lot of relationships going on here before they even get to see me. Okay, so empowering others through lived insights and professional practice. Look, I'll just read this. So Paul's lived experience of the criminal justice system as a driving force behind his work, allowing him to connect authentically with participants and provide meaningful guidance on their rehabilitation journeys. He has had significant impact on prison leavers with high attendance and reserve list for his wellbeing groups. The Work Well programme has become a pivotal part of the prison's rehabilitation strategy, and he works closely with the prison offender management teams. So it's a little bit of nice to get a bit of feedback with some of the departments that you're working with. So Paul provides excellent lived experience insight to the men in the wellbeing groups. The support he gives comes from a humble and unassuming place. He holds the group participants' attention with ease and can navigate challenging questions with honesty and transparency. His facilitation skills are excellent, and he maintains professionalism while building rapport. The group is invaluable, and the participants get a lot of vital learning to start them on their road to sustainable recovery. I haven't just gone in there blind. Obviously it talks about lived experience, and I have that, but I've also managed a number of projects with Active Lancashire over the years, tackling offending, substance misuse, mental health. So when I was approached with this Work Well offer, I was, I took it up without, I just said yes. And it's been an amazing experience, and it's also gained a lot of attention, Work Well, throughout the prison system and the healthcare units. So approaching the community, because it's about community as well. I work with a lot of rehabilitation units, housing event, HMOs, you know, support accommodations, and I go on site doing one-to-ones with all their clients and bridging them into our activity programs and maintenance paths, you know, within the community to start building on personal developments and depending on that individual. So maintenance pathway is the physical activity, but one of our programs is Challenge Through Sports Initiative program. So we have activities and well-being groups, anything from boxing to breakfast clubs. You know, there's a number of activities that people can engage with support workers on site, and they're the ones that are engaged with all the right resources to get people from A to Z. Okay, so there's a little bit of a maintenance path for guys, and there's a lot of resources involved with that. Okay, so DWP, I attend there once a month, and I hold workshops with all the prison coaches, prison leavers. So I'll just hold a whole group, you know, and I'll facilitate a well-being group for prison leavers, and that can be interesting, you know. And it, you know, this has been a lot of learning as well on this work well for prison leavers, a lot, you know. The criteria is quite tiny, you know, it's 12 weeks, you know, it's short-term health issues. I get a lot of issues, you know, as you can imagine. I was just talking to a lad yesterday, he says, I'm just one of them guys, I just have really bad luck. When we started talking to him, he said I was buried alive. You know, they started unpacking all this stuff, and it's like, okay, I've not heard that before. So you can imagine the resilience that I've got to have to be able to get my job done, you know. So, and then again, you know, we've got all the right resources and partners in place to do that with the guys that are complex, you know. So yeah, that's that. Exit routes and employment. This is just a number of resources that I've mentioned, working with the charity sectors across Lancashire, not just Preston, for volunteer routes, linked into Recycling Lad. Employment Opportunities is a great partner of ours in Preston, and the ACE project, and they do a lot with prison leavers, and that supports me and the work that I need to get done. And the substance misuse organisations and opportunities to become peer mentors. That's a huge piece of work that for prison leavers and substance misuse history is to start bridging into helping others, you know, and volunteering, and they become sport workers and start shadowing staff, you know, within the CSI programs and other programs to learn how to become a support worker, you know, and it's quite, as Ian mentioned some of the programs this morning, you know, it's really healthy, you know, for Lancashire, and there's a lot of real, you know, positive outcomes from that, you know. You become assets, you know, all the work that we're doing with people, you know, we stop beating ourselves up and start working on our assets, start working with people who are really good at, you know. There's a bit of that goes on, and then 9 times out of 10, health issues, the short-term health issues, they can be ironed out. You don't need to go to the GPs and start rinsing them for this, that, and the other, and get scripts thrown at them every 5 minutes. You don't need to do that. You get to do a bit of homework with somebody. You can start ironing this stuff out, you know, 9 times out of 10. Okay? Learning and reflection, barriers, difficulties. Adapt approach to first engagement, being in prison. Access to prison clearance process takes time. That was a nightmare. You know, vetting, security, keys, you know, get used to the dynamics within the estate. It's very different. Okay. Complex people and environment. Not a quick fix. Filtering through relevant people. That is ongoing. It's an ongoing process to be able to, you know, filter through the right criteria for work well. Develop, offer and relationships that work for the prison. That took a bit of work. Building trusting relationships with prisoners with lived experience. I have their attention, okay? Through that lived experience. 12 weeks, you know, a bit of learning from me. You know, there's a lot of people that are coming through the programme, need a little bit more time, you know, and we know that, you know, we knew we were walking into that. And there's a bit of work, you know, that needs to be, it's difficult as well, letting go of a caseload when you know you can do a bit more, okay? Learning and reflection, success, beating the targets with a very difficult audience. I've overachieved, you know, we're on target with what we need to do for outcomes and that. It's more about the learning. It's more about bringing the learning from the project. Wider impact on resources, reducing costs across the prison service, economy, healthcare. Some of these guys are in and out like flies. Rinsing the government's funds, you know, and it needs work, you know. Not the work well criteria, but that's what I'm up against, okay? So, feeding into rehabilitation, compensation, shaping futures, offer of improvements for prison leavers, system change. Other prisons and area are keen to hear about the successes and the approach. Workwell now we are in Garth, Weymouth, Risley and Lancaster. So I often support their teams as well. And I was in Liverpool Monday, you know, so that's not Lancashire, but they've invited me down for, we've heard about what you're doing, investing, you know, and they've invited me to their resettlement hub. And we've done a big presentation. We spoke to all the officers and the staff and the inmates, you know, and the dynamics in Liverpool, you know, so we're all learning. And yeah, just the substance misuse guys at the bottom there, the new provider within Preston Prison, starting to take contracts in other prisons now. That's been really good, you know. The contact details, you know, we have got Active Lancashire, have a website, you know, so people can just go refer straight through the website. You can do the QR code, but you can go through the website on Active Lancashire. It's usually 3 days before somebody makes contact, and the right person will be allocated to the right provider who's been here today, you know, because we've all got specialists in different areas, different skill sets, and the right referral will be allocated within 3 days to that partner. That's me.